Real estate investing wasn't that scary to get into. It seems really intimidating and really scary, but my name is Mclauchlan. I'm born and raised in London, Ontario. I just turned 24 years old a month ago, so still relatively young in the real estate investing, but loving it so far. And currently I have two student rental properties in the Fanshawe area. One is a 5-bedroom student rental and the other is a 6-bedroom student rental. So I purchased my first property 3 years ago, and it mostly came out of a need of wanting to move out, but at the same time not wanting to spend a lot of extra money and still kind of save up, still have my lifestyle stay the same and be building towards something larger. The whole idea of just spending a lot of money to rent a place wasn't very appealing to me. So I ended up finding a really nice single family property that had an in-law suite built in, which, if anyone's familiar with real estate, it's very similar to a duplex, except it wouldn't be legally 2 units. However, by all means and purposes, it's almost the same. After buying this property, I was able to live in the bottom unit of this property for free, and the tenants up at the top paid for the entire mortgage, as well as all the utilities, and even about $150 extra at the end of the day. And after it went super successfully for a couple months, there was no regrets whatsoever. I really realized I just wanted to double down, get more into the real estate investing business and really make it into something. I saw how powerful it was to be able to take a relatively small amount of money and purchase such a large asset that is able to spit off cash. And not only that, but it's something that can match up with your lifestyle in terms of a place you want to live, attracting people to that place. There was just so many things that even at a young age, real estate was able to satisfy for me. Because of that, I kind of definitely fell in love with it, and have just been continuing doing that. I was able to close on a second deal about a year after that. Currently, it's been a year since then, and I've been trying to close on a third deal, which I'm apprenticing as a construction maintenance electrician. Because of that, I do have a little bit of hands-on skills doing renovation work, which some people would say is a big advantage. But at the same time, I don't know if it's the biggest advantage. A lot of the things I've learned to do in terms of renovations and real estate, really, I think I could have done even without a lot of my on-the-job training. The electrical work has helped, especially for light fixtures and plugs and switches and receptacles, and as well as just inspecting and knowing what's going on, maybe confidence. But I don't know if those were essential components to my investing. Real estate investing wasn't that scary to get into. It seems really intimidating and really scary, but it's the path to get started. There are a lot of really easy initial steps you can do, and once you end up just pulling the trigger on something, once you see that everything will work out, it's tried and true kind of advice. But I think ultimately that's what it comes down to, and once you get that ball moving, you realize that it really isn't that scary. And now it's kind of funny, I guess it's kind of funny we're talking about this right now, and I'm happy to be saying this in front of a camera, because I'm sure in a couple of years I'll be able to look back and watch this video, and there's things right now that I think are really scary in real estate investing, like some of the stuff Matt's doing with his renos and BRRRRing full properties and pulling it all out. There's definitely an element, some fear towards. But once again, as you start the process and you realize that things aren't that crazy and it's all very logical and step by step, you really see that path opens up. So that's kind of stuff I've loved about real estate, I guess.
So you bought your first property at 20.
Yes.
What gave you the confidence?
Good question. Yeah, I would say the biggest thing, I think I'm a very individually motivated person. So if I see something that I want to do, I'll go out and do it. But I'm not the quickest at pulling the trigger, so I'm not reckless in the fact. I knew that, I just heard that, and you'll hear it from everyone, right? That oh, real estate, oh, just buy it and rent it out. I'm sure if there's any students watching this, they think about it, buying a property instead of paying their landlord money every month. Really hold on to that thought, because that's the seed, that's what you need. And then on top of that, I had a friend who had bought a property as well, had been investing in it, and he was successful with that. So he was a great inspiration. Then reading books and information online helps a lot, because you can kind of flesh out an idea. But yeah, it took me I'm not going to lie and say it was a quick process, that first property when I was 20. It took me about a year from kind of the serious point, the inception point. Because I remember I was having a conversation with an employer, and I was asking, I was like, how do you get a mortgage? Like, what's a mortgage? How do you get that? Who do I talk to for a mortgage, right? And he was like, oh, just go to, I think he was telling me OMAC at the time. He's like, just go to OMAC, they'll hook you up. So I had no idea, but I just kept talking to different people, talking, learning, networking, and eventually found a deal where the numbers worked. And that's a big thing too. The first couple deals I looked at, the numbers did not work. And I remember people saying, oh no, this is a good deal, this is a good deal. And I went, no, this doesn't really look too good. So trusting your own intuition is huge. And then, but yeah, just keep persisting. It'll take time. Like it took me a good year to find my first deal. Second deal, I was a bit more critical with like what I was looking for. And once again, that took me a year. And then I'm looking for my third deal now. And once again, my criteria for the deal is even more critical. And so it's taken me about a year as well for my third deal. So it's a long process for sure, but it's really sticking in there and letting that seed build.
An obstacle or a roadblock a lot of people come across, especially as a young investor, not necessarily getting a lot of support from friends and family that don't necessarily understand. You're only 20 years old. Why do you want to tie yourself down to a house? Why do you want to be a landlord? Why do you want that headache? Do you really want to unclog a toilet at 2 a.m.? What was your experience like, and what are your suggestions for others that might be going through something similar?
Yeah, oh man, it's brutal, right? Like I said before when I was talking about my investments, my parents didn't talk to me for a month after my first purchase. And even while I was doing my first deal, it was very hard to kind of get them to buy in. Any of the professionals I worked with, right? Like that's another challenge. And a benefit of networking is if you can network with people who understand your vision, then they'll hook you up with other professionals that'll understand your vision. Trying to just find a typical real estate agent who doesn't specialize in investment properties is ridiculous. You're speaking two different languages. Same with a broker who doesn't understand what kind of financing you're trying to get. It's just tough. You're going to deal with a lot of that. A lot of the horror stories are pretty hilarious. Everyone's going to tell the horror stories, right? And me doing this for 3 years so far, really, like I've had some funny, quirky stories, but nothing that was overly terrible, nothing that would like ruin me. I think that you have to take the good with the bad. I think your first deal isn't as bad because you'll get a lot of support from people being like, oh, like it's like you're too cute, right? You're like too cute to even worry about, like, oh, it's just his first property, and they'll hook you up with a nice little cute thing. I think the real challenge is like going for that second and like third and really trying to like scale it up and take it serious, because that's when people are really going to start being like, okay, no, now you're crazy. Like one property is enough, but two is too crazy. That's the biggest challenge I found.
So let's say I'm 18, 19, 20, 21, and I've read a couple books, I've read some blogs, I've watched every single one of Matt's videos and subscribed since day one.
Yes.
What should I do now? Like,
well,
what are the steps that you recommend to someone they've seen more than the tip of the iceberg, but they're not ready to jump?
Definitely, yeah. And I'm gonna try to get as laser focused as I can about this. I think about this a lot actually in terms of giving advice to younger people or other people starting out on their path. Always be like networking, learning, things like that. That goes without saying. But in terms of real estate investing, starting out, you definitely need some money saved up. So I would say you want at least around $20,000 saved up. You could probably do a deal for a little bit less, but let's say around $20,000. The reason being why you can at least get into a property with 5% down for your first principal residence with a high ratio insured mortgage, which is a mortgage that's insured by CMHC. You can get into real estate with relatively small amounts of money, like $20,000. You could probably even do a deal for around $15,000, but it's a little bit risky. But so you need to have some money saved up, like bare minimum. Also, you want to have employment, like a good job or like your career path pretty much set out at first. At the end of the day, that's going to be your safety net, your income coming from your property. If your first property, if you do a bad job with that deal, if you're young, it doesn't even matter because you'll still have a decent job and so you can make money back. And so that shouldn't be holding you back, but you want to have a good job first. Also, you'll need one to claim income for financing the property. So job, have about $20,000 saved up to get into real estate, and then start meeting with people and start learning. At the same time, if you don't have a job or $20,000, you can definitely start helping people out and networking, because that's huge, and just getting that experience. Like I said, it took me like a year to get into my first deal. Like, I wish I could have met myself when I had started and just kind of given the tidbits, or met somebody who's been successful with the process, because it would have definitely sped things up and also given me confidence to kind of have an idea of where I sit. But those are like the important things going forward. Once you get those, then I would say the other important thing too for somebody who's young is really analyzing their lifestyle and where they want to go and what they're okay with. I don't want to make a blanket statement, but I think a lot of people are almost too entitled to kind of start doing things. They'll be like, oh well, I'm 18 and I'm going to be like a graphic designer, so I don't even want to touch this or think about this. And I think you should really experiment as well, and real estate is a great thing to get into no matter what your skill set is. So even if it's not a hands-on, even if you're doing tech related stuff, there's tons of guys that I know that are tech related but are still crushing in real estate. Understanding that maybe as a 18, 19, 20-year-old, you're going to be living in just like a basement unit, which, like, just for the record, my first deal wasn't a terrible living condition at all. Actually, it's like a 2-bedroom unit with its own kitchen, bathroom, like a living room, laundry's right beside it, so it was like very comfortable, and I could easily live with a roommate. But being willing to kind of take that hit initially and kind of live that nomadic lifestyle, I think is very important as well. Because that kind of stuff, you're going to have that creativity, that lifestyle creativity of like, yes, I can live like that, to go into it. And I think really, if you've got that money, the job, and the willingness to do it, like, that's all you really need to get started.